Hi everyone. So our first topic we're going to be working on is going to be division. And so the question is why division? And the reason we don't start off with division is because I've noticed from working with elementary students or adults going back to school trying to get a GED or do a standardized test like the ASVAB or something. Division usually gives them a lot of problems more than the other math operations. So you have four math operations. Basically, you have addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Now, division is the hardest of all four of them because it involves all of the other three math operations. You have to know how to subtract, add, and multiply in order to be able to divide. And in fact, you also need to know your times table as well. So it's very, very important to be very, very grounded on your division. And besides that, division is not a math skill per se, it's a life skill. You got to know how to do all your full math operations to be able to basically interact well with people. So that's why we got to be very, very good in our math operations, basic math operations. Those are life skills, they're not math skills. To start off, we're going to do a conceptual explanation first, then we'll go into the mathematics of it. So conceptually, division is basically about splitting a particular number of things between a certain number of people or items. So you have, let's say, a man has two sons, and he has 8 oranges. I'm going to represent this orange with stars, okay? Something like this. And so how does it split those 8 oranges or 8 stars between both sons? So that is a conceptual approach in which you have 8 oranges between 2 sons. So in math, it's going to be 8 divided by 2. Okay, so you have a certain number of items being split between a certain number of people or entities. So that's the whole concept of division. How can we share something between a certain number of people? So that's the concept, and we're going to go over that, and from there get a good understanding of division. So let's draw that out here. So we have a man, all right, and he has 2 sons here, son number 1 and son number 2. So these are conceptual understanding of division. So I'm gonna use something to describe, to represent the oranges, all right? So he has, let me use this stars to describe oranges. So he has 8 oranges. So 8 oranges. And he wants to split those oranges between his 2 sons, right? So let's do this here, okay? Let's do this here. So he has 8 oranges, right? So each star represents an orange. So we have 1, 2 oranges, 3 oranges, 4 oranges, 5 oranges, 6 oranges, 7 oranges, and there we go, 8 oranges, right? So we have 8 stars representing 8 oranges, okay? And he has 2 sons, okay? So he has son number 1 and son number 2, represent the sons using this pause here. So he wants to split these 8 oranges between 2 sons, okay? So we want to represent that in math, okay? It's basically, so we have a man, and he has 2 sons, son 1 and son 2. So he has 8 oranges, right? And he wants to divide that between 2 sons. So he has 2 total sons. So it's basically 8 oranges divided by 2. That's what we're working on right now. Okay? So 8 stars represent 8 oranges. So we want to split it equally. So we're going to go and give each son an orange until we add up oranges. And that way we know, okay, we've done everything. We've divided everything equally. So the first son gets 1 orange, second son gets 1. All right, so you have 1, 1 each, right? Next, he gets 1 orange. He gets 1 orange. 2 each. And then he gets a third orange. He gets another one. 3 each. And then lastly, he gets 1 more. And he gets 1 more. Okay? So each of the sons have 4 oranges, each represented by these stars. Okay, so 4 is split equally between 2 of them. So if we're dividing 8 oranges by 2, okay, we expect to get 4. Okay, so that's basically the whole concept here. So 8 divided by 2 gives us 4. So that will be 4 oranges for each son. So that is the concept of division. How can you split something into a certain number of numbers? Okay, so if we're just doing the math, we see 8 divided by 2. If it's in real life, you're sharing it equally between 2 people or 2 items. It could be 3 or 4 or 5 people, and you make sure each one of them gets it equally. So that's the whole idea of division. So what does the 8 here represent? In math, the 8 here is what we would call the dividend. All right? The 2 here, we call that the divisor. It's what we use to divide. Sorry, that's... There we go. Divisor, okay? And then the 4, the answer we got here, this we call the quotient, which is the answer you get after you divide. So understanding what each of these 3 is, helps. So the 8 oranges, the total oranges, that's dividend. The 2 sons represent the divisor. And the answer you get, how much you get equally after you split it between them, that's a quotient, which is the answer. So those are the basic concepts of dividing and how it works in real life. Okay. So now let's go into how you write it in math. Okay, we've seen one way to write it in math, because sometimes I see a lot of students, QPOs especially, you ask them to write 5 divided by 3, and they flip it around and write 3 divided by 5, and they get confused. And if you can't even write a division correctly, the syntax correctly, how can you get the right answer? So let's go over how to write your division correctly so you don't mix it up and make mistakes. So there are 3 basic ways of writing it. The simplest way, which we often see, goes like this. So we have 8 divided by 2. Okay, so I'm going to write each. So when you're reading the math, you read this, you write this 8, E-I-G-H-T, 8, and this divided, okay, divided by, and the last one, 2. So you're basically reading the math. And the syntax, the correct syntax is 8 divided by 2. That's how you write it. So you have all 3 letters, all 3 items being read from left to right. The second situation, which is the one I wrote while I was showing that example, that conceptual example, looks like this. 8 divided by 2. So this one doesn't go from left to right. It goes from top to bottom. Okay, so when we're reading the math, we go 8 divided by, and then 2. So that's how you read the math here. 8 divided by 2. You go in steps.
from top to bottom. And then there is one more way, which is the last major way it's usually presented, which is the third one here. You go, and this is the one that often confuses pupils a lot. They get it confused, but hopefully we can clear that confusion here. You have 8 divided by 2. And one reason why I think this gets confusing is because of the syntax, the way the whole math is arranged on paper. In the first one, as you see here, it goes from left to right. Okay, and this one here, we can see that it looks a little bit different. It looks like the 8 is on the right and the 2 is on the left. So sometimes students get confused, and teachers may oftentimes not clarify those things. And those little things can go a long way in confusing a student for a whole year. It's just that little difference. So creating that clarification helps make sure that the student doesn't get confused during the division. I see this a lot. So let's read this. So this instead goes from right to left, unlike the other one. So we read it first, saying 8. Let's do this. Let's start first saying 8. So it's almost like you're going counterclockwise. So 8, so we start with 8, and then we go divided by, and then lastly 2. Okay, so you're basically going like this: 8 divided by 2. All right, so those are the 3 main ways of writing your division in math, and the syntax has to be done correctly so you don't write the wrong thing and solve for the wrong thing. Once you have this down, you should be fine. So remember all 3 of them and how they go. The first one goes from left to right, 8 divided by 2. The second one goes from top to bottom, 8 divided by 2. And then the last one goes from right to left, or counterclockwise, so the 8 divided by 2. All right? Okay, so now with that done, let's do some math. Okay? All right, so let's do another example of division here. So single digits only. So we have here 6 divided by 3. Okay? So when I'm doing this division, I put together some acronyms that helps guide the students on how to do it so they don't get confused or they don't know what step they have to do next. Because sometimes when especially complex divisions involving double-digit numbers or even triple-digit numbers and on, students get confused. So once you understand how to remember the steps to follow each time, you won't get confused. So the acronym that I use, there are 4 letters I put down, and it goes this way: D, M, S, B. I use B or A for the last letter. I just put B there. So this is what I use, to help my students remember the step to take. So when we're dividing, like I said, when you divide, you need to know your times table, because that's another thing. So the first thing you do is you divide. Okay, that's the first. The D stands for division. I'm right at what it all stand for. The M stands for multiplication, or multiply, sorry. Multiply, that's the next step. The S stands for subtract. So like I said, division involves all the different math operations. And then the B stands for to bring down the next number, or add, so B or A, to bring the next number to add. All right, so those are the 4 different steps you have to follow. So let's start out with the first one, D, to divide, division, right? So we do 6 divided by 3. Okay, so we'll look at our times table. Okay, so let me pull up the times table here. I'm gonna go to a new that's because I want you all to see what the times table looks like, and I'll go over it real quick. Okay. Okay, let's see. Let me expand this. We're trying to expand this. Here we go. Sweet. So the times table, we have on the times table a set of rows and columns. Okay. So the top row, okay, multiplies the very first column. Okay. So so it's a diagonal, sort of thing that goes this way. So we have the one here. This one multiplies the first one on the top row multiplies the first one in the first column. So 1 times 1 gives you what's in between them, 1. So 1 times 1 gives you 1. And it goes on and on. 2 times 1 gives you 2. 3 times 1 gives you 3. So it goes that way. So each one of this, the one goes through this line like that, it multiplies. That's a product or the quotient or the product for multiplying all the other numbers in this top row. So that's how they're going to go diagonal like that. So when we're dividing here, we have 6 divided by 3. So we're going to look for what number multiplies with 3 to give you 6. Okay, so if we go over here, we'll look at the times table for 3. You can use either way. You can either use this one here or this one here for 3. What number multiplies with 3 to give you 6? And we'll look here, you see 6 right here. So that means a number multiplies with 6 to give with 3 to give you exactly 6. And then we'll go up, we'll look for that number, we'll see that the top row is where we'll look at. And we have 2 over there. So 3 times 2 give you 6. So we know that when we divide 6 by 3, we get 2. And it goes reverse. If you look under the 2 times table, what number multiplies to give you 6? We go to the top, you see it's 3. So they sort of work the same way. So either or, whichever way you want to go. Okay, so over here, 6 divided by 3 is going to be 2. So when we do the division, we put our 2 first because that's what we see from the times table. Okay? So what is the next step before? The next step is to multiply. And what do we multiply? We multiply the quotient with the divisor. So now we say 2 times 3, that gives us what? 6. So that's the next step you do. Okay? So after that, what do? We subtract. And what do we subtract? We subtract 6 minus 6. Okay? 6 minus 6 gives us 0. When we get a 0, we stop. Is there any other number to bring down? There's no other number to bring down to the right. Okay? There's no other number here. So we stop there. So what is our answer? 6 divided by 3 gives us 2. And that's our answer, final answer. We stop right there. Okay? So that's what we do. That's how you do a division. Straightforward. Let's try one more. Okay, it's a dividing without remainders. So let's see. So let's do 4 divided by 2. Okay, so let's go to our times table. We're trying to see what number multiplies with 2. So this is the 2 times. So what number multiplies with 2 to give you 4? So we see 4 here under 2, and we go up to connect to the other top row. And we see that 2 is right there where we have 4. Okay? We have 4 here, and we have 2 here. So 2 times 2 give us 4. So we know that when we're dividing 4 by 2, we're going to have 2. So writing your DMSB. So first one we divide, 4 divided by 2 gives us 2. Then we multiply, 2 times 2 gives us 4. Then we subtract, that's the next step. 4 minus 4, 0. We get a 0, there's no other number to bring down, we stop right there. So what is the answer? 4 divided by 2 is 2. Final answer. So that's how you do it. Okay? So the next step now, what we're going to learn is how to divide numbers that give us remainders, that don't give us even answers. So let's do that. So the first one we're going to work on will be 9 divided by 2, okay? 9 divided by 2. Without our D, M, S, B over here. So 9 divided by 2. So the first thing is to divide 9 divided by 2. We can look at our times table. Under the 2, we look for a number that is closest to 9. We look for, see if we can find 9. There's no 9 under 2, right? We go from 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There's no 9. So that means 2 doesn't divide into 9 evenly, okay? So what do we do there? We look for a number closest to 9, but not more than 9. And that number under the 2 times is 8. 8 is closest to 9, but not more than 9. And then when we go up, we look for what number on the arrow corresponds to that 8. So up there we see 4. So that means 4 times 2 give us 8. Okay, so when we're doing this division, we're going to put 4 there because 4 gives us a number close to 9 when we multiply it with 2. Okay, so we write 9 divided by 2 is 4. Next thing we do, multiply 4 times 2, that gives us 8. And then we subtract next. 9 minus 8 gives us 1, right? There's nothing else to bring down this side, so we just stop right there. So what is our answer going to be? So when we do 9 divided by 2, we get 4, remainder 1. So this one here is the remainder, okay? So that is our answer. So what does that mean? When we multiply 2 and 4, it gives us 8, and you only need to add 1 to give us 9. So 1 is the remainder. So that's how you do that. So the next thing we're going to do is that sometimes as you go up in math from 5th grade to 6th grade, you will be asked to write your answers in fractions because you're not always going to use remainders. As you go up in math, you have to write your division answers in either remainders or decimals, in either fractions or decimals. You can't be writing remainders all the time. So the next thing I'm going to do is show you how to write your remainders in form of a fraction. Okay, so let's open a new page here. So when we have something like this, just using what we did before, 9 divided by 2. Okay, so we had 9 divided by 2. We had 4. 4 times 2 gives us 8. We subtract 9 minus 8 gives us 1. So our answer was 4, remainder 1. So we want to rewrite this in form of a fraction, right? So this 4 right here is a whole number. We write the 4 down here. So now we're going to have a fraction. To write the fraction, the remainder, this one, becomes the numerator. Okay, so let's write it out. Remainder becomes denominator. Sorry, numerator, I mean to say. Let's see that. Becomes a numerator. Okay, and then in this case, what do we have? What do we use as a denominator? Okay, so the denominator, which is what goes as the lower number in a fraction, that denominator is going to be the 2 that you use to divide. Okay, so this 2 that you use to divide will become the denominator. Okay, so the divisor becomes denominator. Okay, so that's what happens. So the remainder becomes the numerator, while the divisor becomes the denominator. And that's how you convert from a remainder into writing a fraction. So instead of writing 4 remainder 1, you now write 4.5, 4 1/2. That's how you go from remainders to fractions. So let's do another one so you can see another example to clarify your mind. So if you're asked to divide 9 by 4, okay? All right. So let's do this. So 9 divided by 4 will be 2. All right. Remember your DMSP. You divide first, then you multiply. 2 times 4 equals 8. We subtract next. And you get 1 as the remainder. So our answer is 2 remainder 1. Okay. So now we have to rewrite that 2 remainder 1 in form of a mixed number. So for the mixed number, we have 2 as a whole number. And then since 1 is the remainder, this 1 becomes the numerator in the fraction. And then remember the denominator will be the divisor. And the divisor means what we use to divide. So what do we use to divide here? We divided by 4. So in this case, the denominator is going to be 4 for this fraction. Okay. So our answer is 2 1/4. That is the answer for this particular question. Okay, so that's how you change from writing remainders to converting into mixed number or fraction. So that way you can change your answers depending on how you're asked. Lastly, the last thing we're going to do is to write our answers in decimals, because sometimes we will be asked to present your answer in form of a decimal. Now, there are different ways of doing this. One way of doing this, let's use the same examples we've used before. So the first one we did 9 divided by 2. So let's do the division again. So DMSB. So we divided first 9 divided by 2, we get 4. Multiply 4 times 2 equals 8. We subtract, we get 1. Nothing else to bring down, so that's the remainder. So the answer is 4 remainder 1. Okay, so we've come this far. Now, how do we write this in fraction? We know how to write in fraction. The fraction is going to be 4 1 over the divisor 2. That is a fraction answer. If you ask to write it to represent your answer in decimals, okay, so how do you do that? So one way to go about doing that is to do your division of this fraction. You have this fraction here. You do your division of that fraction. So we say 1 divided by 2. Okay. So 1 divided by 2. Can 2 go into 1 evenly? Well, 1 is too small to be divided by 2. It can. So what do? We write a 0 and put a decimal point. Okay. Once we write the decimal, the next thing to do is to add a 0 to the 1. Okay, so that's how you do it. After I write a 0, then do your division again. Okay, remember the D, M, S, P. So you do your division again. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay, and we can see that from our times table. You see here under 2, we'll find 10. We go up, we see 5. That's the number that corresponds to the 10 under 2. So that's why we're using 5. So 5 is the number. So now let's do our multiplication. 5 times 2, that's 10. We subtract 10 minus 10 gives us 0. There's nothing else to do. So we stop right there. So 10 divided by 2 gives us 0.5. So when we are writing this 4.5 here in form of decimals, okay, so we go from writing 4.5 now becomes 4 With a decimal point here, we put a decimal point, and then the 5 becomes 4.5. Okay, so that's how you go from a fraction, from a remainder to a fraction to a decimal. Okay, 4.5. So 4.5 is the same as 4.5. Okay, that's how you do it. Another way of doing it is to do it while you're doing the long division. Okay, so I'm going to show you this method. All right, so what are we working on? We're working on, hold up, let's see. We're doing 9 divided by 2. Okay, so let's do that. I'll share it with here. So 9 divided by 2. We have our D, M, S, B to the side. So 9 divided by 2. So we say division first. 9 divided by 2, 4. Multiply here, 4 times 2. That gives us 8. We subtract. That gives us 1. So once we get to the 1, and then we continue, we say 1 divided by 2. That is too small. It can't go through. There's nothing else to bring down. We can't go through. So what do? We put our decimal point down there. Okay. And so what do we do next? We add a 0 to the 1. All right. We add a 0 to the 1. Whenever you have a remainder, you add a 0 and keep dividing to get to decimals. So once you added a 0, if you're not bringing down a 0 and you just added a 0, you got to put your decimal point. Okay, that is where you put a decimal point. When there's no number to bring down and you add in a 0, you got to put a decimal point. So when we've done that, we continue with, so we've done the, we brought down a 0, we continue again from D, divide again. So 10 divided by 2, that gives us 5. Okay, then we'll multiply 5 times 2, that gives us, I gotta take out this dash out of there. Here we go. So 5 times 2, that gives us 10. We subtract 10 minus 10, that gives us 0. So we've done our subtraction. There's nothing else to bring down, so we'll stop right there. So that is another way of getting your decimals. Okay, when you divide it to get decimals, you just do it straight up. And 9 to 8 to 10, and then 0, 4.5. So the answer here is 4.5. The answer comes out in decimals. So that's how you do it. So this is the basic first level of division, dividing single numbers. The next time the next video is going to be dividing numbers that are double digits. Okay, when we do that, double digit division, we can see more complex situations, and we can, from doing double digit division, we can do triple digit division, and then from there we then look at dividing using fractions, and then dividing by decimals. We're going to do all of that, and that should do it. See you guys next time.
Thank you for watching Math Lab by Academics Institute. If you have any questions, suggestions, or there's a particular topic you want me to cover, please use the comment sections below to let me know. Also, rather than wait for a video, you could go to our website to download or contact us at www.academicsinstitute.com. Now remember, if you like our video, please use the subscribe buttons above. And until next time, I'm Ben. Keep an eye out for our videos.